Hey, hi, hello, friend. So today our guest is Kadee Sloan. Kadee is a licensed mental health counselor and relationship coach based in Asheville, North Carolina. She is the author of the Lesbian Dating Survival Guide. She has spent the past 25 years blending psychology, real life experience, and queer joy to help people heal and thrive. Kadee was recommended to us by a friend of the podcast, Liz Lucas. We had quite a few rabbit trails over the sex trail, talking about limerence and how that can blur the lines around actual feelings, and how building safety and connection through sex can heal, and so much more. We hope you enjoy listening to this conversation as much as we had having it. Welcome to Season 7 of the Queer Consciousness Podcast. I'm Kit Sargent, and my pronouns are they, them.
And I'm Jess Grace Garcia, and my pronouns are they, them. We're just humans wanting to share the lived experience of other humans.
This season, we're talking about all things sex. We want to have deep, heart-led conversations as we unpack what sex means to us and why it's so important to talk about it.
This is a season of unlearning, relearning, and sharing about a topic that is still considered taboo.
Because at the end of the day, we are all spiritual, sexual beings having a human experience, walking each other home.
Kadee Sloan, welcome to Queer Consciousness.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here and really excited to have this conversation with you today.
We are very excited to have this conversation. I keep saying but I'm not the only one that's here.
Yeah,
You're not.
I'm
here
not
too,
anymore.
It's so ingrained in me at this point. Like, I forget that I am now part of like a couple rather than just a solo individual by myself. See, I've been like always with people in partnerships, whether it's business or otherwise. And so we is more natural to me than I. So it's a learning curve. It's changing my vocabulary. It's not a bad thing.
It's cool.
Anyway, Kadee came recommended from a friend of the pod, Liz.
We love a good recommendation.
We do love a good recommendation. We also love a good hookup because why not?
I love that. That's such a good point. Like, we're just getting together for like a moment in time to have a very intimate conversation. It's totally a hookup.
It's totally a hookup. It's a good time. We might not be here for a long time, but we are here for a good time.
I've been binge listening to your podcast for the past like 3 months, and I feel like I already know so much about both of you, and we actually have so much in common.
Oh, fantastic!
With
That's
our,
amazing.
Deconstructing Christianity, and our journeys have been really similar. So I'm just so glad to have these deeper conversations, and that you're making this information accessible to everyone, and it's much needed. So I'm really grateful for this podcast.
Awesome.
Well, Kadee, now I'm curious. What have you been listening to? Like, what was something in the podcast that like impacted you? I love hearing when our guests have listened previously.
Yeah. Well, some of this has to do with sexuality, and you both like talking about being demisexual.
Yes.
And, Jess, you having, you and your partners, and we learning more about that and that journey. And then, Kit, your history of your journey of coming out and having been married previously to a man.
Engaged. Just engaged. Did not make
engaged.
it over.
Okay.
Did not make it all the way. That was
okay.
I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, I just love the queer community, and I just love, working. I'm a therapist, so I love working with this population because we have to have so much insight into ourselves and understand ourselves to get to this point in our lives. And so, we're just on a journey. And so I've just enjoyed hearing about both of your journeys.
Thank you. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I'm excited. I love a good opportunity to just start fresh with someone. Like I was saying to Kit earlier, like, oh, what is our background, with Kadee? Did either of us know Kadee, more deeply? And I really like when we both start out the same place, with someone. So I'm really excited to have this conversation and to get to know more about you and your experience. And you're right, like being queer requires a certain amount of introspection, and to at least know who you are and to move forward and in our journeys. And I think there's also such a cross with neurodivergence, and so that also requires a certain amount of like listening to ourselves and understanding ourselves. And I'm sure it makes for some really great client conversations, as well as also challenging, because I know, like with my wife, Erica, who's autistic, sometimes she's really set in her mind what the problem is, because she has figured out the pattern,
Mhm.
way in advance. And I know when she's worked with other therapists before, sometimes it's like, but let's consider something else. Like it could be something else at the root of that.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's not to say that your idea is not valid, because you're probably right. But let's consider other things and stuff. I'm sure that there's like pros and cons to that aspect of working within the queer community. Do you have a lot of clients that are queer? Or do you have like a big mix of
Oh,
diversity?
yeah. So, well, I've been a therapist for about 25 years. So it's been a really long time. And I mostly work, 90% of my clients are queer. And couples too. I really love doing couples work. So, and I'm really involved like in the trans community. I started working with the trans community about 15 years ago. And I live in a really small city in North Carolina, Asheville, North Carolina. And it's really queer friendly. It's like a
Oh
blue
yeah, I've heard a
dot
lot of
in
good things
red
about
state.
Asheville. Yeah.
And when I started working with the trans community as a therapist, about 15 years ago, it was only me and maybe one other therapist here that were informed enough to actually work with the trans clients in our community. And so now, probably 20 or 30% of my clients are trans, and I've just been able to like really delve deep into, the trans experience and help a lot of people, with their transitions and be supportive.
I'm
It's
sure
been
it's also helped
amazing.
you, right? Like I'm sure it's helped you to grow
Oh, for
as
sure. Yeah. Yeah,
as a
definitely.
queer or lesbian woman. Like
Uh-huh.
that's, you know, some of my friends who still identify as lesbian, they're just like, I'm really thankful for, being a part of your journey, as well as knowing other trans folks, because I've been able to grow and, expand my knowledge and language. But we are a previous guest of Kit's, as well as a friend of mine, Flamey Grant, lives in
Hmm.
Asheville.
Oh,
And I've
really?
just heard,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I've seen them before. Okay, great. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, that's great. Okay.
they're awesome. But
Yeah, it is.
uh,
It's a great place to live.
well, I'm really thankful for the little bit of background and sharing that. But I think it's ready. I think we need to dive in on the
Yeah, let's
question.
dive in.
The foreplay
Yeah.
is great, but let's get to the good parts.
It's
Yep.
all foreplay for me. All of it is. So let's,
This is true. So now we shall start where we always do with, what does sex mean to you, Kadee?
So when I first got the email where you asked me these questions and it says, "What does sex mean to me?" It's so interesting because the first thing that popped into my head was me talking to my clients about their sex lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does sex mean to me? And then because I have so many experiences, I get to talk to most of my clients about their sexuality. And then I was like, wait, but this is about me. Like, this is getting turned towards me, which feels different. It's like, oh gosh, like now I'm going to have to be a little bit vulnerable here. And because I don't talk to my clients about my sex life because I'm the therapist, right?
This is true.
So, personally, though, I had to think about like personally, what does this mean to me? And I believe that this is just from my personal experience. Sex would be, I would just describe it for me as an act of like emotionally connecting with somebody on a deep level of intimacy. And I know it's not like that for everybody, but I do define myself, as a lesbian, as a queer woman, or a gay woman. I don't mind any of those labels, but I also define, now I know like I'm demisexual, which is a word like I wasn't aware of, 15, 20 years ago when I was trying to understand my sexuality. So I'm so glad that I am glad we have labels and people come up with, different labels for sexuality, because it helped me to understand, like, I used to think, is something wrong with me?
Mm-hmm.
Because other people are out, having hookup culture and sleeping around. And it looks really fun. Like, and there's a part of me that's jealous that they can do that, but I've never been able to do that. I can't really relate to hookup culture, and I've never had a one night stand. And I had to question myself about this to make sure that it wasn't coming from a place of like Christian guilt.
Mm-hmm. Same, totally get that.
Yeah. So, and it doesn't. It's not some sort of like moral conduct. I'm not trying to. I really, and like I said, I get sort of jealous of people that can do that. I've never been able to do it, but, and also I think that taking a look at what demisexuality is a part of the asexual umbrella, the ace umbrella, but it also doesn't mean that somebody who's demisexual it doesn't mean there's like a low libido or a low sex drive. It doesn't mean that at all. And I think people can misunderstand that.
Yeah, I know. I often forget that it's under the ACE umbrella, even though I'm surrounded by folks who are under that umbrella. I just thought about, you just reminded me of that. And I'm like sitting here going like, oh, that's right. Because that's why it took me so long to come up with that label and own it, because I live more on the higher sexuality side of of my desire,
Yeah.
And so that was really confusing, because it was like, well, yeah, I mean, like with a person that I am connected to and that I love and that I want to touch and that I want to be around, I want that all the time. But like if it's someone that I'm just, like just making a connection with or just feeling attracted to, I'm not ready for that, like I said in my episode of the story with my wife on our third date, like when we first started talking, I even told her like, I'm not sure if I'll kiss right away. So she was surprised when we kissed on the second date. I was surprised when we kissed on the second date. But that was because of like kind of sorting out, okay, the kissing thing is from some guilt, right? Like it was from experiencing intimacy with other partners that or folks that I was connecting with that I couldn't kiss because it meant acknowledging that it was gay. Whereas touching or like getting close to or sleeping in the same bed at a sleepover, all of that those kinds of intimate moments could be excused by something else, whereas a kiss, that's intentional. We are doing this because we want to be close to each other in this way, in this romantic sort of way. And so that I needed to work on, versus like when we finally did have sex, I wanted us to have like some firmness to our label as together, by the time we had sex. And that did not feel as connected to, like there were elements that were connected to the Christian guilt, but not the majority of it, And so, but it's so interesting to like, to kind of traverse that,
Yeah.
like figuring it out.
It is. Yeah. Even in high school, I remember I didn't have any insight into my sexuality in high school. I did not know any gay people. So I'm Gen X. I'm Gen X. I'm older. We didn't have internet when I was in high school. There was no access to, information. I did not know any gay people. So, but my friends were, sleeping around with guys, and I didn't really have a desire. I did not have a desire to do that. And at the time, I didn't know why. I didn't. And, that could also be because, I just wasn't really attracted to men. But also it's, could be part of, being demisexual too. And then I ended up marrying the first woman I ever dated. So, we met in college and then became best friends. And then we married in our 20s. And unfortunately, that marriage did not last, but it did last 15 years. And we have 3 kids together. So there I was just with the same person. I never had I never got to explore, outside of my marriage. We were not monogamous. And, in some ways, like, I don't, I would not recommend like marrying the first person that you meet. I don't recommend that because at the time I didn't realize this. Like, I had no access to information. I had nobody to ask these questions, about, my relationship. And I probably would have ended up with somebody different had I explored that more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to, I don't like having regrets. And I look back at my younger self, think, okay, I did the best I knew how to do at the time based on my understanding and my experience. But now when when a young person comes to me and they're wanting to get married at like 22 or 23 to the first person they've ever dated, I question them about that a lot, just to make sure that they understand their brains are not fully developed yet. Our brains are not fully developed until we're like 25. Do we really want to make, those choices at such a young age? But sometimes it does work out for people though. So, it's like U-hauling, like sometimes it does work out for people, but 90% of the time it doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, that's just kind of how it is with everybody. Like you see a version of yourself, especially now that we're a lot older and we've had a lot more lived experience, we can look back at a version of ourselves and be like, oh, child, I love you so much. And you knew nothing. You thought you knew everything that you could possibly know, especially because those first initial feelings of this is your first true love, where you're like, I am now fully authentically the version of me that I have so desperately been searching for. And now this is exactly who I want to be. And this person loves all of me and they want to spend all of their time with me and they don't care about my flaws and they don't care about my quirks and they love it all the same. And that first wave, because it's a first wave of true love. A lot of it is based in, I don't want to say preconceived notions, but it is very much so based in preconceived notions, because you have this idea in your head of what it's supposed to be, what it's supposed to look like. And you're like, I have found it. And so many people are like, you haven't found anything. You have found one person out of 8 billion in the world. One. You sure about that?
The other thing is that in our 20s, in our late teens, whenever we think we found that one person, we are growing so much during that season. Like so much. Like we're sponges. We're absorbing the world and figuring out what our opinions and perspectives are on the world and what are our politics and what are so many things. And it's like so interesting to see like how our friend groups change, how our communities change, how our interactions with our families change. And it's unique when you can find someone, regardless of sexuality, when you can find someone who grows with you or has the patience to wait as you grow, or if you guys are growing at different rates, which is more than likely the truth, you have the flexibility to continue to fall in love over and over again as you discover the new versions of yourselves, But that requires a special kind of like lesson on interdependence when it comes to how we exist. And that also requires like being raised by people who have that, and I think like that's not the norm. That's definitely not the American norm. And it's definitely not the, what a lot of us grew up with, this like conservative Christian norm. So there's a lot of unlearning. Like even for me, I had a lot of internalized misogyny that was based on a conservative masculinity that I modeled my kind of coming into masculinity on. And I look back at like the version of myself that met my wife even. And like that version grew so much in a 2-year period when I was alone. And I'm so proud of who that person was at that moment. But there are times that my wife will tell me things that we talked about, and I will say, what? You put up with this? I would have kicked that person to the curb. You know, like you. And my wife was like, you're real cute though. I guess being cute helps, but like that ability to like be patient and grow, you know, I went to a small community college in a small town and didn't really get a lot of like a very red county. I didn't get a lot of like lessons in feminism or like you said, LGBTQ, like there was no LGBTQ people around me. And she went to a very feminist women's university out here in Los Angeles and just got a ton of education, you know, at the age of 17 to 21, but I didn't.
Yeah.
And so she had a lot of patience in me kind of coming along in that journey of, I mean, she asked me early on, like, do you think you might be trans? And I was like, so offended by that question.
Oh, wow.
I know, right?
Yeah, when I first met my first partner, and we met when she was 18 and I was 20. We met in Glee Club.
Oh,
how gay is that, right?
Yes.
At the University of Georgia, and we were sitting next to each other, you know, in Glee Club, and because we were both music majors, and
same.
Yeah, and
Kadee, I love this.
So with her being like the first out gay woman I'd ever met in my life, I was just like, and I didn't know that I was gay. Like I was just so like intrigued with this person. I was and just like put her on a pedestal. And you know, a lot of it I think was limerence. Like in hindsight, like and as a therapist, I'm like, this was like limerence, you know. And I just
do you mind defining limerence for our audience, just in case they don't know what limerence is?
Yeah, limerence is sort of like it's a little bit obsession. It's like putting someone up on a pedestal and creating this fantasy about them that's not really based in reality. It's really based in like who we think they are. And then falling in love really with like who we want them to be versus who they really are. But anything y'all want to add to that?
No, that was a great,
perfect.
Okay. It's usually also very one-sided. So this other person like doesn't have the same feelings back. So it's different from like the honeymoon phase when like it's two people falling in love together. Limerence is very one-sided. It's us, you know, sort of having a deep crush or obsession over someone that doesn't necessarily feel the same way back. So, you know, in hindsight, I think that's what it was. But also, I was just so intrigued because she was part of the queer community and knew other gay people. And I just, and also at the time I was Christian, so I wasn't out. I didn't even know why am I like so drawn to this person, you know? And
maybe I should pray for her.
Maybe. Yeah, I know. Really, that's sort of what it was at first. Like I was really involved in like Christian ministry on campus, and so I went through like a grappling with this for years. And I was because I was going to be a missionary.
Has God called me to you? Like for some reason, like I remember my first connection with someone that was it. When I was 17, it was that, you know, it was, I think that because she was 2 years younger than me, I think that God has called me to mentor this person and to like pray for them and to spend time with them. And then it was, oh, maybe this is a person who could hear my deepest, darkest secrets and not run away. And I still thought that was something God wanted for me. So I was able to understand that. But yeah, I relate so much to what you're saying.
Yeah. I told you we have a lot in common with this, you know, like deconstructing Christianity and you know, it got to the point where I know this is not quite about like sex, but I think it's important. It got to the point where I had to either like, I felt like I had to leave Christianity or like live a miserable life. Like I feel like, oh, if I decide to, I could choose to stay in the church, but I'm just going to be miserable. You know, like God, maybe I'm not going to have to be celibate, which sounds terrible. And God is not, if you believe in a higher power is not going to want that for you to be miserable.
Well,
So-
even the God that we were taught,
Yeah, exactly.
If we
Yeah.
lean into God the Father as or parent, I will stretch that for folks who want to hear it that way. God the parent, no good parent wants their child to live miserably. They want them to be happy and to be filled with joy. But with even that goes deeper into some childhood trauma in terms of like parents who can't even wrap their head around that because they were taught so deeply in this like really toxic manner of how to separate themselves emotionally and how to disconnect from empathy. We're eventually, empathy became sinful,
Yep. Right. How does that happen in Christianity when empathy becomes
Still
like,
trying to figure that out.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and now we're into compassion. I remember when they used to say, like, when I would catch up with some evangelical, things every now and then, and I would hear, well, compassion and empathy are different, and they would kind of distinguish that we're called to be compassionate, but but empathy means that that's just a step too far, and now it feels like compassion is sin. At this point, to even think kindly and care for people. But that is a totally different subject. I just wanted to say it because the current political climate is what it is. It just is.
Yeah.
It's just the truth, and we're all trying to grapple with it.
We sure are. It's all happening so fast too.
And that's what I at least was raised to know that that's the way it was going to happen. So for me, even though there's a part of me, the newest, version of myself that feels so disconnected from that old version in some ways, is surprised. But the part of me that understands my own history and remembers that training, it's not surprised.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
This is your call to action, friend. If you support this podcast and the work that we do, check out our Patreon and become one of our community members. We have behind the paywall exclusive conversations with each of our guests. And as we gain more support, we have some really cool ideas that we will start incorporating. So go to patreon.com/queerconsciousnesspodcast and see what tiers we have and what we are offering. Now, back to the conversation.
But let's go back to queer joy.
Yeah.
I'm curious because you were saying about limerence with you falling in love with her, but she's the one that you married, right?
Yeah. So I really pursued her. I pursued her and eventually came out. I had to come to terms with it for myself. But you know what I did actually to discover my sexuality? I decided to like move out west to the desert, to Arizona. Like for me to like really find myself, I had to leave the South. I had to get out of the Christian Bible Belt.
That makes sense.
Go explore my sexuality. And like the first night I could, once I moved out there, I went to like a lesbian bar. And
I love it.
Yeah. It was called Ain't Nobody's Biz. I don't know. It's like a funny name. And we called it The Biz for short. But, I'd never been around other lesbians, and going to a lesbian bar for the first time was just like heaven. And, we didn't have social media back then. Like no one had phones. We weren't recording any of this. And the way we connected, I guess, at the time, is you really give someone your phone number or your business card or something. So, I'm like 26 or something doing this for the first time. And it was so fun. It was like, I really enjoyed that. But then what happened was my partner, she wasn't my partner at the time, but she decided she did want to be with me. And so she moved out there to be with me.
Wow.
Moved out from Georgia to Arizona. And that's when we stayed together for 15 years after that. Adopted 3 kids and had a good life, a really good life.
How old are your kids right now?
They are 13, 14, and 20.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You're in the thick of it, aren't you?
Yeah. One's in college, so that's easy. But
Yeah.
and they're great. My life has actually turned out better than I thought it ever would. Like if I think of myself being like a queer kid in the South and trying to come out and like thinking, you don't really know what it looks like to have a family, and I didn't have any role models for that. And now, I've ended up I feel like in a great place.
You trusted your gut.
So I just want to give the young people hope. Like if your goal is to like get married and have a family, if that's what you want to do, like you can do that and have a good life, and your kids can be happy and healthy. Like we're great parents.
Yeah, I love that so much because my friends who are like one of my closest friends and mutual friend with Kit, Jennifer, she's got 2 kids in their 20s, and they were both fathered by the same sperm with her wife, and they're just, I love hearing stories about them, and I love hearing like how normal their life was, but also when I came into her life, she was able to like find queer community again because she had become so invested in kind of straight parent spaces because that was all that was really available to her because not a lot of her other queer friends were having kids. And so she kind of lost that in the process. And then it was like, oh, wait a second. I can still like kind of have both of these things together at the same time. And so it's really cool to watch her kind of like, I don't know, become aware of this space and then find community again and all of that. But anytime I'm thinking about like, this was something I really wanted was to be a parent and to like, it isn't necessarily our path. And we had to go through our own versions of grieving. But I know so many who do desire that, who just desire a family and kids. And there's all kinds of ways to do that. You know, there's all kinds of ways. It doesn't have to be the traditional route.
No,
you
not at
know?
all.
Like I know some of my Arrow and Ace friends who have like actually found the world of polyamory because they want to have like a family with kids and like be a part of that kind of unit. But not necessarily some of the requirements it takes to have kids, you know? So yeah, it's I think even that you can think outside of the box for like, but I love that you followed your gut. I think that's like, for me, like I just keep thinking about that. Like for me, I saved myself at least a decade of guilt and like just unfortunate deep hurt, you know, that I've seen so many of my friends who tried to hold on into their 30s or their 40s or got married and, you know, like to, you know, the opposite sex, and they still kind of, you know, were sorting things out and had kids there, and they don't regret that, you know, but they're just discovering themselves in their 40s and 50s, their queer side, you know.
And, you know, I didn't come out until I was 25. And now people call that like late in life or later in life, I guess, which at the time for us,
I wouldn't think 25 is late. Yeah, no. And I think culture and time is important. Like if you're thinking about like for you at your time, 25 feels like, for me, that would feel, even for me, my age, like people who came out at 25, I think that's not late in life at all. But like 30, mid 30s, late 30s, I think that's closer to later in life. Now, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they know their sexuality by the time they're like 10, and they're like, the thing they're caring about is like gender. You know, they're like, oh yeah. Like, I don't know. It doesn't matter whether or not I'm attracted to. It's not a big deal. Like I'm attracted to all kinds of people, but my gender though. Like, I don't know.
Kit, weren't you like 27?
I was 30.
30. Okay. I knew it was a little bit older than I remember you.
You're right there on the cusp of later in life.
Well, because I was 30 when I started questioning. I was 31 when I actually started to really internalize and really start to fully understand who I was as a person. It wasn't until I was 32 that I actually came out.
Okay.
You've done a lot of work since then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so
A lot of
glad
good work.
you're on the right track. So
There's some people, they'll get there.
yeah.
When you meet a friend, like I have a friend right now who's in Minneapolis, and she's just, she has kids, was married to a man,
Mhm.
and like they still have such a great relationship, and I'm so happy they were able to salvage that. But literally, she's been on quite a journey the last year, because it was like a year and a half ago that she discovered her queerness, and
Oh.
it was just like, whoo. And I remember we've been friends for years, and I was like, babe, we all knew. Yeah, and like a lot of her friends.
Yeah.
And she's like, why? I'm like, we can't. No one can tell you that. Like,
Yeah.
no one can say like anything, especially if you're on the demi spectrum. Like,
Mhm.
I think being demi can delay that, because you can
Mhm.
have such
Yeah,
a
it can,
strong
yeah.
connection with someone, and like be satisfied, like you said, even with your wife, your ex-wife that you were with for so long. Like, there was such a strong connection, but it started with this limerence,
Mhm.
and it doesn't devalue the relationship, and
Right,
I was going to
yeah.
ask you if you're okay with it. And you don't have to answer, but was she the first person you had sex with, and did you only have sex with her? Like, did you eventually figure that out? Are
Yeah,
you
I
still
would love
kind
to
of
talk
sorting?
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to.
So,
I'd love to hear about that.
yeah, I actually, I had she's the only, I'd never slept with any other women before I was with her. And I had one boyfriend in college that I slept with. And we lived together for 2 years, like, yeah. And I was always just like, this just doesn't feel right, like, and the sex with him was not bad at all. Like, it wasn't, and he was a good guy. Like, I have nothing bad to say about him, but just something missing, like, we know, like, something's missing here. Like, it's not feeling like I expect that, the emotional connection there and what I'm desiring. So anyway, I married, my first partner, and I had no other sexual partners until we split up in 2016. And then after that, I got to explore that a little bit more. And still, like, I dated I'm remarried now, but I dated so much in a couple, like 2 years. I was on the apps. It's so
Yeah.
hard to
Oh,
like be
yeah.
on the apps and like um and I still was not able to like get into hookup culture. But I was meeting so many women. I was just like trying to find something very specific. But I had the chance to like sleep around if I wanted to, and I probably hurt a lot of people's feelings because I'm just like, no, you can't come home with me. I know you're drinking and having fun, but no, I don't want you to come home with me.
I love that you knew that about yourself at that
I just
point.
can't do it. I can't do it. And so I did end up in a couple of like shorter term relationships that lasted like 10 months or a year, and those were intimate, and I got to explore sexuality more with those. And so that's good. I enjoyed that.
Did you figure out some things about yourself, like what you actually desired and enjoyed in that
Yeah,
process?
because I'd only been with one person, and we were together for 15 years, and we don't realize like that if we have other sexual experiences with people, they bring in different things that we can experience and have fun with. And sometimes it's something that we didn't know was a real thing. So yeah, it's I enjoyed that time, and I just don't have any regrets about it at all. And also, like, I think that, like, when I think about, my sexual experiences, I think the average person would say, like, they're pretty vanilla. Like,
Mhm.
however, because I'm a therapist and because I have taken upon myself to learn so much about all types of sexuality and sexual behaviors, like, people talk to me about their sexual experiences all the time, and I have to really educate myself on all the different sexual expressions out there. Like, feel like I know so much about like the kink community and now the furry community because my clients are like, poly and in the furry community, and I have to learn about that. And in grad school, I did a big paper on my like BDSM and kink, and so just like understanding all of these concepts and being able to support people with their sexual exploration has just really been so fun for me and has helped me to grow. I get to, some people will come to me like they're new in town and they want to be part of like a kink community and start exploring that part of themselves. And I know where to send them and I know who they can meet there. And so, but on a personal level, as far as like my own sexual experiences, I mean, I can probably count on like, one hand how many people that I've slept with, but my sexual knowledge is vast.
Yeah, we're two peas in a pod, Kadee.
Are we? Okay.
We are. So many people talk to me and they say like, Jess, oh my gosh, I bet you've had so much sex. I have. I've had a lot of sex with, this many people. Like you said, like on one hand, but I've had some incredibly deep, intimate connections with quite a few more than that, right? And I think that's important. That's an important aspect, just like the knowledge that we have about our local kink scene. And I think I also just like people who are into the kink and BDSM world. I like the way they talk. I like how transparent they are. I just enjoy people who have it all out there, just lay it all out there.
Yeah.
There's a vulnerability to that I really appreciate. And I'm also, I think I enjoy like the challenge to my perfectionism, because sometimes the creative side of me that needs to be challenged to kind of go outside of the box and do something that I'm not necessarily great at already is challenged by this like constant, place of like, well, you can't knock it till you try, like kind of vibe. Like it's like, like let's at least understand what's happening. And I think that's why I kind of have said before, like I'm more of a voyeur, like because I like to kind of sit back and understand and take in and ask lots of questions. And then eventually it's like, actually, I think I might want to try that. And then even if it's not for me, it's like, I'm glad I did, because I feel like I can get in the head of my clients as a like sex and relationship coach and sometimes pastor. Like I can understand people better and where they're at in that regard. And yeah, I just really love that community. And I love knowing that these places exist. And I think that they are necessary, dungeons and all of that. It's so necessary. And I honestly wish most of our consent and sex education was coming from those places because they know how to talk about consent in a way that the world needs to hear.
Definitely. Yeah, the people and the couples with the best sex lives are the ones who are able to talk about sex the most. And so, even when I'm talking with couples, we have to be comfortable talking about these things and know that sex is not supposed to be a taboo subject. Like we are sexual beings, and in whatever way, everybody's different, but it just, especially growing up in the Christian church, we're just taught so much shame around our bodies, and we have to do a lot of deconstructing.
I think so, yeah. And I've said before that I believe that purity culture is like a form of sexual abuse. Like there is this thing that we've gone through, together. Like it's almost like a massive cultural event that we've experienced this level of harassment and abuse. And and so sorting through that as an adult, let alone even a teenager, like sorting through that is such a difficult thing. And I think, for some of the people that I've seen do some of the deepest, best work that they, I'm like, oh man, like I love hearing about your your journey to this place is my kink friends who had sorted out, like, for me, a belt got used on me a lot as a kid. And so for me, leather isn't necessarily a thing that turns me on. But for some, they've reclaimed belts and things that were used in a harmful manner for them. And they've said, no, I get to take pleasure and enjoyment from this. And I get to take power from this. Maybe they're dom now, or maybe they're wanting to like take this and give power to someone who loves them instead of someone who is trying to hurt them. Like, there's just so much to unpack psychologically about how people take their pain and reclaim it.
Yeah, that's great.
In the sexual realm. I think, like, some people have a hard time with that. They say, like, oh, are they okay? Like, is that person okay? And it's like, let's talk to them. We can ask, like, does this feel good to you? Is this something that feels like something you've thought through, or is it something you're just doing? And the answers are vast and different. I'm sure as a therapist, you get to hear all kinds of stuff like that.
Oh, I do. Yeah. I mean, I just had several different people come to mind, and of course, I can't give any identifying information. I want to talk about some people from the past, but I remember having a client that came to me a couple of years ago. She'd been married for 10 years and got married when she was young and divorced around 30 or something. She was, and she had never had an orgasm before from her husband. And so we started to talk about that, and she wanted to figure it out. Like, and she thought maybe something was wrong with her, and maybe I just can't.
Yeah.
And so she wanted to have, she wanted to try a lot of different things sexually. She really wanted to explore this. And so she went on, some of the apps that she found, like, a couple of doms.
Like FetLife and stuff like that.
Yeah, she went on FetLife and Field, I think, maybe too.
Yeah,
and
Field,
she found a couple of different people to explore this with. She wanted to be a sub, and she wanted a dom. And so she found that. And it was so great to just go on this journey with her and her exploring her sexuality, and finally being able to have an orgasm with a partner, and just her like really embracing her sexuality, and everything was consensual, and she just felt really like taking her power back. And I get to see that so much with people, and just feeling like they're finally understanding their sexuality and just feeling power in that.
I love that so much. I love hearing that. I want to celebrate for her.
Yeah, one of the things they did, though, that I just remembered now is that, she was a little bit uncomfortable. For some reason, she couldn't have like an orgasm with a partner. So they started with toys remotely. So you can use like a person can use a toy on you remotely and with video. And so she was more comfortable like having an orgasm in that way before actually being like in person with them. And was a way to like break through that whatever that barrier was for her,
Yeah.
Honestly, that makes sense. And I've had friends who've had that exact same experience. So I totally understand that. And those remote, there's so many of those kind of remote toy like things out there. I know I was just thinking about how like a lot of my first experiences were over the phone. And so I understand now that because I'm demi, long distance doesn't matter. And that it matters because I want to be with the person, but like having that like emotional connection was what it was about, that spiritual and emotional connection. And there's something about having an orgasm in that state of mind as opposed to being in person with someone. It's so different. And Jana and I were recently apart for some reason. I think it was because of my mom. It was the month before my mom passed, and I was at home back in Maryland, and she was here, and we got to reacquaint ourselves with the beginning parts of our relationship from 5 years ago. and have, like a phone sexual experience. And it was great. And it was
wow.
oh, we haven't done this in a while. Like that was a different thing back then. Like I really enjoyed that type of connection and orgasm, because it's not the same as masturbation, even though you are using you are doing things for yourself. It's this emotional and spiritual connection that is happening that's going to take you to that place. I sometimes say energetic, like depending on where you're at spiritually. It's an energetic connection that just like takes you to a different place than when you start getting into a rhythm of being together physically and like getting used to, like, oh, well, we like it this way, right? So to change that and to go back, it was just really great. And it reminded me of that, like, oh yeah, we should we should try that. We should do this, even if it's like not to expect it every time I go away, but she's often my travel buddy, so it doesn't get to happen all that often. Whereas like my wife Erica, we've never really been apart in that way. And I like to joke that she sucks at sexting. Like,
right.
I'll send her something and she'll like, and of course I want to send something to her if she's at work and she's a NICU nurse. So she's like, bad timing. Don't send me something. Like whatever it is, it's like, it could be just a little phrase. It could be something that's a little NSFW. And it could easily go to the next place and she'll be like, she'll change the subject or she'll say something really gross about work. And like, why'd you follow the clues? She's like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
But this is my gray ace wife. Like,
right.
Not as much into it. But now I guess that's the beauty of getting a second wife, is that she does enjoy sexting every once in a while, but we haven't done that in a while either. So maybe that's something to rediscover. But that was a part of our beginning, and there's just I don't know, like I joked about before we even got on recording, like, I'm all about the, like for me, it's all about the foreplay. Like, I just really enjoy everything leading up to that point. And then some people would say that I'm also very vanilla, like in my actual, like sexual encounters, because I'm so just deeply emotional. Like I'm super satisfied with just like deep, intimate connection and being told I love you. Like I used to joke that like I love you sex was my favorite.
Oh, that's funny.
This podcast is hosted by me, Kit Sargent, co-hosted and produced by Jess Grace Garcia of Springward Productions, and the theme music is by Brian Smith of Holy Holy Music Productions. If you could do us a huge favor and please like, follow, comment, share, do all of the things on all of the socials. You could follow the podcast on Instagram @_queer.consciousness for all the latest episodes, as well as any other exciting news. When you're listening on Spotify, please leave a 5-star rating and use the comment box for anything you'd like us to talk about. When you're listening to Apple Podcasts, please leave a comment and a 5-star rating. If you'd like to be on the podcast, send a message to queerconsciousnesspod@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the podcast, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/queerconsciousnesspodcast. We are trying to grow as organically as possible, and this helps other like-minded people who want to empower and encourage others on their journey. So until next time, remember to stand in your truth and know that you are worthy, just as you are. Hey friend, just wanted to take a quick second to remind you that if you or someone you know is struggling and don't know where to turn, the trained volunteers at the LGBT National Hotline are here to help. Because sometimes the strongest thing to do is to ask for help. The National Hotline phone number is 888-843-4564. And if you want to check out the other things that they have available for them to help you with, you can check out the lgbthotline.org in order to be able to see all of the services that they offer in order to help our community.